If ye love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude than the animated contest of freedom, go from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains sit lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. The line in the sand, you know the time is coming.
Congresswoman Lummis, I know you care deeply about a military family. You are one. We have parents, loved ones, brothers, sisters. What would you say to the mother of one of the people that was killed? Did the military, did the Pentagon, did the United States of America do everything it could to save those people?
I would say, sorry for your loss and your sacrifice. We should have done more, whether it was in preparation prior to or execution at the time. Even if we simply just burned gas in airplanes moving people. We have to have the confidence of the American people that provide us with their sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, moms and dads, and continue to fill the uniforms and to fill those civilian positions that are so key and so brave as well out there in harm's way. We have to ensure that we rebuild the trust. This is Bob Lovell talking to you now. We have to rebuild their trust. It's a big part of why I want to be here, because we need to say to them, we should have done more. And we owe it to the memory of those 4 people that are fallen and to those that were hurt and wounded.
Could we have done more?
Sure we could have done more.
Secretary Hillary Clinton whispered, evidently, according to one of the mothers, whispered in the ear, said it was the video that had done this. Is that true?
Absolutely not, sir.
When did you think it was over? When were our Americans in harm's way? When were they safe?
They're still not safe today, sir.
When did you think the fight was over?
They're still there.
That night, though, September 12th, while we still had people in Benghazi, when was the fight over?
When the people from Benghazi finally made their way back and were extracted back to Tripoli.
Your opinion, your vantage point there in Libya, was Al-Qaeda on the run?
No, sir.
What was going on with Al-Qaeda September 11th, September 12th, in the months leading up to that? Were they on the run?
No, sir. They were actually affiliates and other Islamic extremists were actually responsible for the perpetration of these attacks.
Are they growing in strength, shrinking in strength?
My estimation would be that they were growing in strength, in number and in capability.
September 11, 2012, what was your rank and title?
Brigadier General, United States Air Force, and I served as the Deputy Director for Intelligence Knowledge Development, J2.
J2. Where were you the night of September 11th and 12th?
I was at my home until I was recalled to the JOC, Joint Operations Center.
Joint Operations Center in Germany?
Yes, sir.
So you were in the room?
Yes, sir.
You were able to see, hear, feel, understand what was going on in that room?
We work towards understanding. That's the job of the J2, yes, sir.
Were you ever interviewed by the Accountability Review Board, the ARB?
No, sir.
CIA station chief, your prime responsibility was to try to, as you say, the last sentence of your testimony, that the attacks, the AFRICOM J2 was focused on attribution, that attacks became attributable very soon after the event. What do you believe they were attributable to?
That they were attributable to an Islamist extremist group.
Al-Qaeda?
It was we felt it was Ansar al-Sharia.
Which is affiliated with Al-Qaeda?
Yes, sir.
AQIM, were they involved?
The AAS is who we most principally looked at, but all of the groups at large.
How quickly did you come to the conclusion that you believe that there were Al-Qaeda affiliates or Al-Qaeda themselves involved and engaged in this attack?
Very, very soon, when we were still in the very early hours of this activity.
Was it a video?
No, sir.
Was it a video that sparked a protest?
No, sir.
What I want to get at, Mr. Chairman, are the facts at the time. That's what the White House keeps talking about, the facts at the time. The CIA station chief is quoted as saying, quote, not an escalation of protest, end quote. Would you agree or disagree with the CIA station chief's analysis?
That it is not an escalation? Absolutely, it was an attack.
Beth Jones at the State Department, in an email that went to, among others, Hillary Clinton's chief of staff, says that she told the Libyan ambassador, this is September 12th, 12:46 p.m., I told him that the group that conducted the attacks, Ansar al-Sharia, is affiliated with Islamic extremists, end quote. Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
I would agree with it. The timing of it, I don't know, but the content, yes.
Mr. Chairman, the scandal that is here, that some choose to ignore as a phony scandal, is the fact that the CIA station chief, the military themselves, you have the person sitting in front of us who's the head of intelligence. He's looking at the intelligence. They come to the conclusion that it's Ansar al-Sharia. And then you also have the Department of State telling the Libyans that it was Ansar al-Sharia. None of them think it's a video. None of them. The military, the CIA station chief, the State Department, all of them. The facts at the time, Mr. Chairman, the facts do not point to a video. That only comes from the White House. What was going on in the room, General? Our people are under attack. There are people dying. What is the military doing?
Desperately trying to gain situational awareness in an area where we had a dearth of it.
Were they moving to the sound of the guns? Were they doing what they were trained to do? Or were they sitting around waiting for the State Department and Hillary Clinton to call them up and say, do something? What did they actually do?
We sent a Predator drone overhead to be able
Did we do enough, General?
Sir.
Your professional opinion, you're retired.
Yes, sir.
I know you care deeply about this.
Yes.
What was the mood in the room? What was the feeling? Was it to save our people?
There was desperation there to be able to
It was what?
Desperation there to gain situational awareness and to be able to do something to save people's.
But did they actually do it? Did they actually do it? These three actions that we talk about, a fast team. Fast team's they're not even trained to go into engage into a fight. The other force they talk about is coming from the United States of America. We had assets there in Europe. Did they actually go to the sound of the guns? Did they actually go into Benghazi?
No, sir, those assets did not.
Why not?
Basically, there was a lot of looking to the State Department for what it was that they wanted, and in the deference to the Libyan people and the sense of deference to the desires of the State Department in terms of what they would like to have.
Did they ever tell you to go save the people in Benghazi?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
I recognize the fact that you led as a commander, but you were under command as well. And the frustrations of being under command at times and in this situation appear to be very evident. But I appreciate you being here. You mentioned in your written testimony that AFRICOM's ability to mobilize and employ combat power with, quote, limited boots on the ground and in the implied time frame was commendable. What do you mean by the implied time frame?
The United States was acting under Odyssey Dawn, and then was supporting under the UN resolution. So in working through the compressed time frame prior to OUP taking place, the United States was acting with allied partners, and then more focused NATO plus effort, if you will, with OUP. So there was a definite desire to get done what we could get done prior to that, and then moving forward. Also, there's so much you can do without boots on the ground. Obviously, I wasn't in an operational role at that time, but just military knowledge tells you need boots on the ground to hold and make changes, much as the rest of the panel has discussed here today.
So the effectiveness, could you elaborate of this policy?
Of a no boots on ground policy,
yeah.
sir?
Yes, sir.
Well, you can affect from the sea, you can affect from the air, but you hold and have lasting change by being present on the ground in a situation where you need more than, say, just diplomacy or economic influence, and the military is called in. That's serious business, and the change takes place on the ground.
So am I to understand then that the effectiveness was compromised, that it wasn't complete, that it wasn't as full as possible, that it wasn't satisfactory without having this boots on the ground available to you?
I would characterize it as you would obviously have had a different outcome and effect had you had boots on the ground than you had without it.
Without it. When did AFRICOM start becoming aware of political turmoil in Libya?
Well, Libya was a country that we watched, as we watched all of the, I'm speaking from a J2 perspective, we kept tabs on all of the countries there. In the Arab Spring, we knew especially that there could be other effects going across that area. There were really things that we watched that were CT-oriented, and then other things that we watched that were more broadly politically affecting. And that began to happen.
When you began monitoring it? When was that?
That would be in the early 2011 timeframe.
Did AFRICOM have any role in the decision-making process to intervene in Libya, and what type of role?
I'm sorry, sir, would you please repeat?
Did AFRICOM have any role in decision-making process, direct decision-making process to intervene into Libya, and what was that role?
That would be more at the commanders, the combatant commanders level than my own. I wouldn't have that information.
What was AFRICOM's role during Odyssey Dawn?
The role was to work with other allied partners prior to the UN resolution taking effect to assist the rebels in Libya.
What about Unified Protector?
That was a more broad effort sanctioned by the United Nations to assist the rebels in Libya.
Dr. Garnstein-Ross, some have praised the NATO intervention as a model intervention, but your testimony points to consequences of the intervention. What are some of the most pronounced consequences of this Libyan intervention?
The largest consequence is what happened in North Mali. There's
excuse me.
The gentleman's time has expired. You can finish your answer.
The largest consequence is what happened in North Mali. A direct line can be drawn between the intervention in NATO and the jihadist takeover of North Mali, something that became an issue in the 2012 campaign, both because the Tuareg separatist groups, who are not themselves jihadists, lost their major sponsor in Gaddafi, and jihadists were able to exploit that, but also because the returning Tuareg mercenaries who fought for Gaddafi both pillaged his armories and came back heavily armed. There are other consequences that can be felt with the flow of arms throughout the region, going to places like Egypt, Algeria, and Tunisia, lives have been directly lost there. And one thing that we can see that happened in January of this year is the shoot-down of an Egyptian military helicopter. We don't know for sure where those arms came from, but both the UN panel of experts, which looks at the diffusion of Libyan arms, and also contemporaneous media accounts, believe that Gaddafi's armories are the most likely place that militants were able to get this weaponry to shoot down the helicopter. I think that when you look at the unintended consequences, it has made the region much less stable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There comes a time in the lives of men when the ruthless and the criminally insane who rule the masses for their own gain make the fatal mistake of enjoying too much their psychopathic entertainment, and take too far their need to tread men.
Well, the president, the buck stops with the president. The president said as much. Of course, these are decisions that the president has to make. This is a firefight that started at 9:40 at night, local time in Libya, went well past 4 a.m., which is where we had some more people killed, went well into the morning. And so, yes, it just begs the question, were they requests? Did the president demand that we get in there and help save these people? There were hours unaccounted for as to where our United States ambassador was. And at the same time, the State Department testified that they could witness this in real time. We know there's videotape of it. We know that they could witness this in real time. They testified to that. So I still, again, a lot more questions. And when asked directly yesterday by the Colorado affiliate, the president did not answer the question.
I want to ask you very quickly about military assets. You traveled with General Ham. What do we know about what military assets were available throughout the region and whether or not they were ever prompted to step in?
I can tell you that a first-hand account in my meeting with General Ham asked very specifically, did we have resources in the area? The answer is yes. Did we have proximity? The answer is yes. And then asked why we didn't send in some of those assets. The general said he was not requested to do so, meaning that somebody higher up than him, he's a four-star general, which there aren't a whole lot of people between him and the president, did not request him to take action, and that's what's so concerning. So, did requests percolate up from the ground for the people there? We'll have to see what the answer to those questions are. But was he directed by the president or the Secretary of Defense? He said no.
Now to Benghazi. Almost 2 months after the terrorist attack that killed 4 Americans, the CIA has released a new timeline, a timeline of actions, suggesting it played a larger role in trying to save those 4 Americans. My next guest says it's time for this administration, this president, to come clean on Benghazi. Our guest is Admiral James Lyons. He's retired commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. And Admiral, it is great to have you with us. I want to turn to first that deadline. Tuesday, Election Day, will be the 8th-week anniversary of the attack on Benghazi. And now we have a timeline from the CIA. Your thoughts about both that timeline and the timeliness of it?
Well, I've looked over the timeline, Lou, and of course it leaves certain things out. For example, we had resources in theater which were not utilized. One that we've utilized in the past is having a jet aircraft fly over, which could have flown over the consulate in full afterburner. It would have scattered the crowd. It would have bought us valuable time and perhaps maybe saved some lives. The second resource we had in theater was at Sigonella. It was a 130-man Marine Force Recon unit that was fully equipped and ready to go. And I'm told that General Ham never received any orders to execute.
Admiral, let me explain. Force Recon is a special operations group, elite warriors in the Marine Corps, and they were in Italy, and within 2 hours dispatch time, would you say? That
approximately within 2 hours. We could have had a jet aircraft over within an hour.
And the idea that this timeline was released, General, I don't know that anyone other than the administration to this point has blamed the CIA for any part of this. It's been a question and an issue of the decisions not to seek military support, a question of being told to stand down, as our Catherine Herridge and Jennifer Griffin have reported here, and Brett Baer. This is a peculiar response on the part of the CIA.
Well, it is at that, and it's also peculiar why we never have tried to secure our consulate. That could have been done immediately, and much information could have been protected, possibly even more lives saved. What's questionable is CIA's role and the Director of Naval Intelligence role in the bogus cover-up story of that this was a reaction to a spontaneous mob and a reaction to a video which nobody had seen.
Admiral, as we listen to the White House tell the American people that this was about basically a 14-minute video that upset some people in the region that had run on YouTube, when they knew absolutely that that was patently false. And they talked about the fog of war as the reason for not making decisions, but they were so confident that they could say and get away with saying that it was about a video when they knew it was a terrorist attack. How can it be that someone in the military, the CIA, the national security team doesn't step up and say, wait a minute, we can't have this kind of nonsense going on as the President of the United States himself addresses the American people?
Well, Lou, unfortunately, from my perspective, the office of the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff has become politicized because of the structure of Goldwater-Nichols. It was never the intention of Goldwater-Nichols to politicize the office of the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And political correctness has infected, unfortunately, all the major levels of our military leadership. But there's another point here, yes, Lou, which is overlooked, and that is the CIA was tracking for months the commander of the Ansar al-Sharia terrorist group that carried out the attack on our consulate.
The Al-Qaeda-related organization in Benghazi.
Correct. And I find it incomprehensible that they had no clue that this attack was going to occur, particularly when the consulate on 16 August put out a security message to the Department of State telling them about the out-of-control militias, heavily armed, roaming throughout eastern Libya. They cited 10 militias and al-Qaeda groups that they said they had no fear of retribution from the Libyan government because the Libyan government had lost all control in eastern Libya. The consulate had no confidence in the 17 February Martyrs Brigade, who were assigned the responsibility for the consulate protection, or the local police force. Right. Half the time the local police force wouldn't even show up.
And Admiral, as you know, in the previous month, in July, the British ambassador had been attacked, the Red Cross had been attacked, and the United States was the only Western power with presence in Benghazi, and precisely because of the deteriorating security environment, that is, they knew they would be attacked if they stayed there. A remarkable period. Admiral, we thank you for your time. We appreciate it. I hope you'll come back here soon and we can continue to analyze what is happening here. We appreciate your time.
Look forward to it, Lou. Thanks very much.
Admiral James Lyons. Up next, outrage erupting in New York, frustration.
1952, the world needed an elite counterinsurgency and intelligence group. This special force is known around the world as the Green Beret.
I would like to ask you, is Al-Qaeda more or less established in Libya since our involvement?
Mr. Kucinich, I will have to take that question for the record. I am not an intelligence expert.
Oh, you don't have the intelligence, you're saying. Well, I'm going to go on to the next question. The next question. Are Americans safer, Mr. Kennedy? Excuse me.
I think the other two may have an opinion also, if you wanted to ask them.
Well, I wanted to ask Ambassador Kennedy. Next question, Ambassador Kennedy. How many shoulder-to-air missiles are capable of shooting down civilian passenger airlines are still missing in Libya? And this happened since our intervention. Can you answer that question?
No, sir. I'll be glad to provide it for the record.
You're saying that you don't know?
I do not know, sir. It's not within my normal purview of operations at the State Department.
Does anyone else here know how many shoulder-to-air missiles that can shoot down civilian airliners are still loose in Libya? Does anyone know?
The figures that we were provided were fluid, but the rough approximation was between 10 and 20,000.
Yeah, the gentleman's time has expired. Did you want them to answer anything about Al-Qaeda growth?
If anyone there knows the answer.
If anyone has an answer on that one, they can answer, and then we'll move on.
Is Al-Qaeda more or less established in Libya since our involvement?
Yes, sir, and their presence grows every day. They are certainly more established than we are.
Thank you. With that, we recognize the chairman of the subcommittee and a doggedly determined individual to get to the bottom of this, Mr. Chaffetz.
Special Forces tends to be the quiet professional. We don't like to pat ourselves on the back. We don't like the ballyhoo, the photos. So as a result, it was nice to have someone like Robin Moore bring us into the limelight.
I'd always wanted to do
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nordstrom, as we spoke before, and I think is clear in the record, you were asking for more personnel, and that was either rejected or denied or just simply ignored, correct?
Actually, to clarify, we were asking just to keep what we had.
And when you weren't able to just even keep what you had, what happened to your pay and the other security officers on the ground?
I'm sorry.
As I recall, what you told me is when that was denied, you were given a pay increase. They increased your pay.
Okay. What I think you're referring to is the increase in danger pay for post. As part of normal procedures, we are asked for input at post. As part of that process, would provide information on security.
To clarify, you were asking for more assets, more resources, more personnel. That was denied. But the State Department went back and reclassified it as more dangerous. The danger pay, therefore, increased. They didn't tell you that we didn't have resources, hey, that Congress just cut your budget. They gave you an increase because the danger was rising, correct?
That's correct. We received a danger pay increase.
Did the buildings in Benghazi meet the so-called Inman standards? After the bombings in Beirut, we went back as a government, formalized some minimum standards. Did they or did they not meet those minimum standards?
Neither the buildings in Benghazi nor the buildings in Tripoli met those standards, nor was there a plan for the next phase of construction, what was called the interim embassy. Would they meet the standards either? That interim embassy was scheduled to be on the ground for approximately 10 years. That was a major cause of concern, and that was the main physical security issue that we continued to raise.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I would point to an August 20 cable that UN officials believe that the Supreme Security Council is, quote, fading away, unquote, unwilling to take on, quote, anyone with powerful patrons or from powerful tribes, end quote. This cable back to Washington, D.C. also said that incidents continue in this security vacuum, as they refer to it in Benghazi. Mr. Chairman, I would also point to September 4th. In their memo, they highlighted the September 1st, quote, maximum alert. A maximum alert, September 1st. This was the information that was coming. And what's infuriating is that we have hundreds of terrorist types of activities. Our consulate is bombed twice. The British ambassador has an assassination attempt. And you're over here arguing about whether the number was 5 or 2 or 5 or 3. And the security experts who actually even been to Libya didn't get the resources that they asked for. Colonel Wood, did you or participate in any way, shape, or form in requests for additional personnel in Libya, and what was the consequence of those requests?
Yes, sir, I did. I assisted Eric Nordstrom in preparation of the requests for support in as much as they dealt with SST support. I reviewed some of those documents and assisted in the preparation of those. I'd like to add also that there was frustration from the beginning. The initial, or perhaps it was the second request for extension that occurred in April 5th. Ambassador Kretz encountered some difficulty in understanding what was going on. He was getting conflicting signals from DOD and DOS. I got him together with General Ham. They worked out a complete understanding, and General Ham made it very clear to Ambassador Kretz that he could have the SST as long as he needed them. This was a great interagency cooperation, and that was made very clear to him. It was also made clear to John Polishek, who took over as Chargé d'Affaires in between Ambassador Kretz and Ambassador Stevens. He came personally and told her that. He also had a VTC with Ambassador Stevens and reiterated that same point, that the SST was his as long as he needed them. All he had to do was request them, and General Ham was perfectly willing to provide that support.
Let's go hot.
Cross-training within a special forces group is vital. Today's A-teams consist of 12 men, a number that was developed through trial and error in the 1950s. Vietnam proved that as force multipliers, 12-man teams could be split into 2 teams of 6, or further to 6 teams of 2. And those 2 U.S. soldiers might have the responsibility of several hundred men. Along with the specific training for the individual MOSs, the soldiers continue honing their skills in land navigation, small unit tactics, air operations, and mission planning. These skills are the essentials that all Special Forces operators must master in order to thrive in an ever-changing environment.
Mr. Nordstrom, did you ever specifically ask Charlene Lamb, or did she ever specifically direct you not to ask for additional DOD SST extension?
I recall 2 specific phone calls, one in the February time frame, one in the July time frame. I had the opportunity to refresh my recollection on one of those phone calls by talking to the 2 agents who happened to be present in the living room of the ambassador's residence, which is where we used as our office. In those conversations, I recall that I was specifically told, you cannot request an SST extension. How I interpreted that was that there was going to be too much political cost, or for some reason there was hesitancy on that. In the first case in February, the ambassador and DCM and I all felt strongly about the need for that, and we went ahead and requested it anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
There comes a time in the lives of men when the ruthless and the criminally insane who rule the masses for their own gain make the fatal mistake of enjoying too much their psychopathic entertainment, and take too far their need to tread men down by destroying any sense of a secure life, and taking away each and every freedom, stealing the last piece of wealth they possess, so they cannot even care for their own, stifling their voice with laws and corruption, beating them down with rule by force, where no justice exists for those being played, and there is no direction left for men to turn. When this insane game is taken this far, comes the time when men have nothing left to lose. This is the time when the minds of men are freed. It is a time when man loses his fear of death. This is the time when a man becomes invincible. He becomes free to do whatever he must do, without fear for his life or for his future. He will take control of the destiny of the world, away from the bloodied hands of the soulless. Any action he takes, he will take with a surety that he must do something, for he has no future. So the act he chooses will be all the greater. For when faced with oblivion and with no way out, he will take down as many of his oppressors with him, gladly die in a selfless act to change the world's future. This day is coming soon, as it always does. The perverse minds of evil always self-destruct, as their addiction to our suffering can never be sated, exerting control for their paranoia and fear of men. For every good man will take down these brutes. Every free man will give himself up for his brothers. For a man with nothing left becomes fully empowered. And he is the most unassailable weapon against evil.
Maybe Mr. Lazarus knows better than I do how many bombs the president has to drop without congressional authorization before that becomes war. I don't know the actual number. But I think what Mr. King was getting at is, you know, there is one last thing to which the people can resort if the government does not respect the restraints that the Constitution places on the government. Abraham Lincoln talked about our right to alter our government, or a revolutionary right to overthrow it. And that is certainly something that no one wants to contemplate. But as I mentioned in my written and my delivered testimony, if the people come to believe that the government is no longer constrained by the laws, then they will conclude that neither are they. That is why this is a very, very dangerous sort of thing for the president to do, to wantonly ignore the laws, to try to impose obligations on people that the legislature did not approve, etc.
An excellent conclusion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
It's time to strap our boots on. This is a perfect day to die. Wipe the blood out of our eyes. In this life there's no surrender, and there's nothing left for us to do. Find the strength to see this through. We are the ones who will never be broken. With our